Alright guys, so welcome back to animation part 2. Today we're going to be adding locomotion animations for our player, and we're going to make it so that when we are idling, idle plays, walking, walk plays, and running, run plays, and we're also going to blend those animations together. So if we're moving at a different speed, then it will automatically blend for, say, the run and the walk animation to get a mix of in between. So we're going to start by deleting all of these animations which were added to our base layer when we animated. And we're going to right click and create a new blend tree. And this is going to allow us to blend our animations together. I'm going to name this locomotion and double click on it to open it. And then accessing this blend tree here, I'm going to add 3 motion fields. The first I'm going to set to the idle animation, the second will be the walk animation, and the third will be the running animation. I'm also going to set the parameter here to speed percent. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to set a new parameter here, which is, actually I will rename this blend parameter to speed percent. And so now changing this speed percent parameter from 0 to 1 will blend between idle, walk, and run. And fully, when this is at 1, we'll have running, and when it's at 0, we'll just have idle. And so now we are going to, also, if you're in a blend tree, you can click up here on this bar, you can click back on base layer to go back to the base layer. Now I'm going to open up our player controller script, and at the top here I'm going to add a new variable on this field so we can see it in the inspector. Float locomotion animation smooth time. And also, I haven't added those yet. So I'm going to, we're going to need access to our animator component, so I'm going to add animator anim, and in our awake method I'm going to say anim equals get component animator. And these were here previously. That's because I was just working on this tutorial earlier and forgot to delete them. But we're adding those now. So down here, I'm going to make new float speed percent equals move amount dot magnitude divided by sprint speed. And this will give us a percentage between 0 and 1 of our current move speed out of our sprint speed. So if we're not moving at all, it'll return 0, and if we're sprinting at full speed, it will return 1. And now we're going to do anim.set float speed percent locomotion animation smooth time, and then we'll also have to pass in time.delta time in here because that function requires it if we're going to have smoothing time. So this smooth time is going to allow us to specify how smooth we want our transition to be from idle to walk to run. And we're going to set that in the inspector. And so this is going to set the float speed percent in our animator to the value of this float speed percent, which will be the percentage. And now with that done, we can come in here and actually probably just run the game. And we should see that our gun moves when we move. It will play the proper animation. For walking, it'll play walk, idle, it'll play idle, and if we sprint, it'll play the sprint. And we're going to come over to our player object here, pause the game, get out of play mode so that we can edit the properties. And I'm going to set this to 0.05 and apply this, just so that when we play here now, there's going to be a slight damping in between animations. And if you set this to something like 1, you can clearly see how the damping works. The larger number you make it, the slower it'll take to switch transitions. So I'm going to, at 0.05, that's about where we want it here. We can see the animation. And so now that's the locomotion animations done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a transition from, actually let's go into our animation folder and drag in Glock aim here. I'm going to make a transition from any state to Glock aim. And in parameters, I'm going to make a new boolean called aiming. We're going to set this transition condition to aiming. We're going to make sure can transition to self is off so that we cannot if we have an aiming animation looping, then we don't want it to transition to itself when we start aiming again. So we are going to transition duration, we'll leave it at that for now, and then we're also going to make a transition from Glock aim to locomotion with no exit time and the condition aiming equals false. So when we start aiming, we'll start playing the aiming animation, and then when we stop aiming, we'll go back to our movement locomotion. So in our player script, I'm now going to make two functions, one void on start aiming, and also a void on stop aiming. And in on start aiming here, I'm going to put anim.setBool aiming to true. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. On stop aiming, we're going to set the bool aiming to false. And now here, after the jump function, I'm going to add if input.get mouse button down 1. So if we are getting down the right mouse button, then we will call on start aiming and start our aiming. Otherwise, if we get the mouse button up 1, then we will stop aiming. And so now if we start the game here, we should see that if we press or hold right click, then we'll aim, and if we let go, we'll stop aiming. And that is exactly what we want. I might also change the transition here to be a little faster. I'm going to go into settings here on our transition to Glock aim. I'm going to set it to 0.15, and then the transition out will also be 0.15. And so now if we are aiming, we just aim in and out a little bit faster. Alright, so with that done, I'm going to go to the Glock shoot layer, and in parameters I'm going to rename Glock shoot to attack. And I'm doing this because I want to have a universal variable for attacking. So if we have different weapons, then I want to be able to call just the attack trigger and have each weapon manage what attack means to itself, so that we don't have to make a new trigger for every single weapon and then call that. That just doesn't make sense. So now in our Glock shoot layer, let's make sure this is set to attack. Alright, and let's also... Alright, that seems good. So now we're going to have to make sure we're going to go in here and make a void shoot function. And we are going to say if input.get mouse button down 0, if we get the left mouse button down, then we are going to shoot. And in here we'll just do anim.set bool shoot set trigger. Our shoot variable is a trigger, so we want to set the trigger shoot. So now if we start the game, when we press the left mouse button down, it should set the I forgot. We changed the trigger name to attack, and you can see the warning down here. Not shoot. So if we change that to attack, then when we start, we should see that left mouse button clicking will shoot the gun. Plays our nice shoot animation there. So I'm actually going to, I think, come in here and edit our aiming animation a little bit. The camera field of view, I think I'm going to set to something more like 70, so we don't aim in quite as much. And now if we play, it should be a little more tolerable. And it also seems like we might want to put the gun further forward. So let's record this, take the Glock pivot, move it a little bit forward. Alright, now if we play the game and we aim and shoot, that looks a little better. That's a little bit of an improvement. Still looks a little strange, but we can clean that up later. So that's going to be the end of this animation episode, where we added locomotion animations. We added our aiming in, and we linked it all to our script so that it responds to the button presses. Thanks for watching.